Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Open Peace podcast. We're back here. This time I'm opening the episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a special episode. We've been waiting for this one. Um, I'm sure you can agree with me, Amir. We've been trying to get this episode on for quite some time now because I do believe Samaritans have a unique perspective in this whole region, and also a really interesting culture to learn about. Coming from a Samaritan myself, I'm really excited for this episode because I've always liked opportunities that I am presented with to talk about my community. So whether it's in the airport, on the security, or really in the street, or when someone just sees my name. So I'm always interested in that.
Which so, laughing at Kane
all the time.
Yeah, I was trying so hard to say, "Oh, really? We haven't noticed."
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So throughout the episode, I will be sharing some photos and some maybe maps or something. I think it will make the viewers see what I'm trying to communicate easier. Okay. So. Yeah. Who are the Samaritans? First, sometimes I'd like to start this with explaining who are the Samaritans not, okay? So, the Samaritans are not Arabs. They're not like Muslims. They're not Jewish. They're not Christian. And usually when I get to this point, so people get wait, you're living in the Holy Land. What do you mean you're not Christian, you're not Muslim, you're not Jewish? Like, we don't have any other religion in the community. So... yeah, so the Samaritans, first of all, the word Samaritan, it's derived from the Hebrew word shomer, or shomeri in ancient Hebrew, and it means keepers or guardians of the Torah or of the law. So 3,600 years ago, the story is known about the Israelites. They've entered the Holy Land 3,600 years ago. And after 450 years, basically like any nation around the world, like the hundreds of thousands of nations around the world, nations split all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You have even in Judaism, there's different roots: Christianity, Islam, and all those different nations around the world, they split. And like the Israelites, they split into two kingdoms. We're not going to go dive deep into why the split happened, although
I thought that was the whole reason we're doing the episode, was to dive deep into it, Abood.
We can do a special episode about that, but actually the story is more complicated than it is.
There's so much history.
Yes. So the conflict really boils down to a few things. One is the high priest. So the Samaritans, until today, we still have a high priest who's like the spiritual leader of the community. In Judaism, there's no high priest anymore. But 450 years after the Israelites entered the Holy Land, this, first of all, the conflict, the split happened. So before that, in a little bit, there was a problem with who should be the high priest, who should be like the leader of, who should serve in the Mishkan, the temple. And there was a problem. These two people were called Uzi and Eli, for those people who want to get more into detail. Mm-hmm. Uzi was a younger person. Eli was, I believe it was him who was he had a lot of riches and a lot of power, so he didn't want to be. He wanted to be the high priest, and eventually the place of worship that people believed in started to be different. So, as Samaritans, we believe that when the Israelites entered the Holy Land, the first year they entered the Holy Land, they built the Mishkan, the altar, on Mount Gerizim. And in Judaism, it's believed that it's only 450 years after the Israelites entered the Holy Land that the Mishkan was built. It was built in Shiloh. So this is pretty much the main important difference between the Samaritans and the Jewish people, which is the place of worship. Now, I also want to show you the language, okay? So I'm going to share my screen here. I want to show you what language do we use today as anything that is connected to our religion. So let me know if everyone's seeing it Well, okay. So first of all, I'm going to go here for Samaritan Hebrew. I want to show you exactly how Samaritan Hebrew. This, I think, is a good. 1 second. All right. Do you see it, Goat?
Wow, it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right. So
that's Second Temple, Abu, Second Temple Hebrew.
This is what do you mean second?
Like from the
era,
second
right?
time, 2,000 years ago, the stuff that's on the coin.
This
like this is the kind of, this looks like the Hebrew that we get on from like ancient inscriptions from like the Second Temple era of Judaism, like the Hashmonaean kingdom and shit.
Right. Yeah, this is basically as close as it can get. This is known as Paleo Hebrew. Paleo means ancient in Greek, and it's as close as it can get. As every language, languages develop, right? And basically, when languages develop, they change to be easier to write, easier to pronunciate. For example, you have in, for example, here, and if you're familiar with the in means I or ayin. All right, and when we write it like an I, to resemble an I. For example,
looks like a in Hebrew though, which is weird.
Exactly, it
really
does, right? For example, here we have a shin, and it means teeth. Shin means teeth in ancient, or in Hebrew it means teeth. So we write it as shin, and rosh means head.
And that looks a lot more like teeth than
the shin
one, the letter we actually use. Yeah.
Right.
Actually,
so you should know that the Jewish people today, they use Assyrian Hebrew. And the reason is there's a story about it. I'm not exactly familiar with the whole story, but it goes like something like one of the Jewish leaders saying that we will leave the Hebrew for the Kutim. Kutim was meant for the Samaritans who are believed that they're not really Israelites. So they will leave them. And that Jewish leader said we'll begin to use the Asherit font. Kutim means the people who came from Kuta. A lot of Jewish Orthodox people believe that the Samaritans are actually from Kuta, from Iraq. So they're not really Israelites. We'll get into that in a bit. Now, so this language we learn like by the age of 5 or 6. We have people who volunteer basically to teach us this language. This is like, for example, a paper, like a part of the Torah. Now, I'm sure you know what is for example, the Jewish mezuzah, right, looks like this, right? So
yeah, I love your spelling, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just relying on Google for now. So
I'm just saying, I want to contact the Council of Jews. That's like going to be the official spelling from now on. I love it.
Sure.
Well, your guys' mezuzah is more like a plaque. It's more of a plaque.
I mean, this is the idea of it is that a person, like when he sees it, like when he goes into the house or into the synagogue and he sees it. But I believe in the Jewish traditions, it started to change because they wanted to kind of hide their identity when they were living outside, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's the survival tactic. You make it like, as long as the Jews know what it is, then it's fine. But like, you got to make sure it's as difficult for the goyim to pick us out.
Exactly.
That's crazy though, because I saw this plaque in the Samaritan synagogue that you took us to. I didn't realize it was the mezuzah.
Oh yeah, really? Yeah. So that's how really we know that many Samaritans lived across the Holy Land, because there was a lot of mezuzahs found, hundreds of thousands of mezuzahs found around the Holy Land, and also by the synagogue of the Samaritans. The Bet Knesset for us is. First of all, it does have ancient Hebrew, but it's also going towards Mount Gerizim. So, like, where the cantor prays, it goes towards Mount Gerizim. That's one sign. Now, we'll leave it at here for now, but I'm going to stop my screen. So, after the split of the Israelites, the Samaritans' numbers were believed to be around 1,200,000. That's the most agreed upon population, okay? And they were believed to be from 10 tribes. Now, the Jewish people were believed to be, like, after the split, were from the tribe of Judah and from the tribe of Benjamin, and also half of Levi. That's also why sometimes I get asked, are you Jewish? As a Samaritan, they get asked me, are you Jewish? And it's an interesting question for me, because it kind of it depends on what you mean. Really,
Yeah.
technically, I am Jewish because, right? What is Jewish for you guys when someone asks you, "Are you Jewish?"
Great
How do you
question.
say yes based on what?
It's a very hard question to answer.
It's
isn't it?
like, I mean,
Yeah.
all of
Some
us,
people
all
would
of us
see it
would say
simply.
yes, but to go into the reasoning is like could take all day.
100%, right? So, in short, you might say because my mother is Jewish, right? And
Yeah.
you might also say because I follow the 5 books of Moses. So for me, it's if you mean like if my mother is Jewish, well, that goes to another question. But like my mother is not technically Jewish; she is a Samaritan. But now we ask, are Samaritans Jews? So we're done.
Yeah.
We're not done with the question. So
Yeah.
to make things less complicated, look at it like this: the Jewish people, the word Judah might as well came from the tribe of Judah, right? Jewish from the tribe of Judah, or from the continent, or like the kingdom of
The
Judah.
region.
That's really where it
Kingdom
comes
of
from.
Judah,
And there was the kingdom of Shomron. Anyways, throughout the years, the number of the Samaritans started to decline. There was different reasons for this. The most important one was prosecution. People really didn't understand us well. They across many countries, across many occupations, especially the Byzantines, they killed over 1/3 of the population, I believe, or something like that. So it's might as well left the Samaritans up to 300,000. That was, I think, about 1,500 years ago. And some of us got exiled, but we always remained in the Holy Land in Shechem, which is near Mount Gerizim. Why is Mount Gerizim so important? It's because, well, we believe it is the place where Abraham almost sacrificed his son Isaac. It is the place where we believe, Jacob came here and his sons came here. So it's definitely one of the most important places. So I want to share my screen again, show you where's the village of the Samaritan village on Mount Gerizim. And this is these are a few photos. So the Samaritans who are living today, they are what remained of that big kingdom that existed as the kingdom of Samaria. And the lowest population was about 100 years ago. We came to a number of about 100 and I believe 140 people, 140 Samaritans in all over the world. We don't know if there's any around the world because we were really never contacted by them until now. And this is the place, this is the central place for any Samaritan. As a Samaritan, you have to visit this place at least 3 times a year to do the pilgrimage, okay?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now we're getting closer to like the modern day Samaritans, and Nablus was really was always the most concentrated place where the Samaritans lived in, and it's also basically that's why half of the Samaritans today speak Arabic, because we lived with the Muslims for hundreds of years. So our first language is basically Arabic, but the other part of us who lives in Holon in Tel Aviv, they are from basically they live in Holon. So they used to be in Jaffa here, but they moved in Holon, right?
Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about like relative to us and also Muslims, I guess. Which other sites are extremely holy to Samaritans?
All right. So Mount Gerizim has 12 names. All right. So it's holy definitely mainly for the Torah, but also the Torah talks about where some prophets were buried. Right. So the Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the cave of Machpelah is definitely, the patriarchs is definitely one of the most important places. There's also Eleazar's tomb, the first high priest in the Holy Land. We visit that place sometimes. Joseph's tomb in Shechem is a holy place for the Samaritans, although it is argued by the many Palestinians that it's not Joseph the prophet, but just Joseph from a family called Dwekat. That's just another side fact. And also Aaron's tomb in near Petra in Amman in Jordan. Spectacular place. Also, it's a really beautiful place. We go visit that. So some people ask us, is Jerusalem also holy? Of course, Jerusalem is holy. It's a part of the Holy Land, but it comes with when the Torah, when you want to talk about it from the Torah's perspective, as a Samaritan Torah perspective, It's not like the Har Moriah where the Abraham almost sacrificed his son Isaac.
Yeah.
All right. So another interesting to mention is when did the West discover the Samaritans? Okay. So until about
the West. What do you mean? What do you mean by the
Western
West?
scholars, American scholars, Europe also.
Okay.
Right.
So but I mean, like, when people say the West, there's different things. I mean, when, like, as Westerners, we know the West likes to say, like, oh, Rome and ancient Greece, that's the West. That's the beginning of the West, you know. And like, they obviously knew about Jews.
I guess it's relative to your place.
Yeah, but Middle Easterners have known about Samaritans all the time.
Yes.
Definitely.
Rest of the world you're talking about, right, Abud?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Western world as like in general. So they also talk about Europe. So basically, I think it was about 350 years ago where there was a scholar who came and discovered this, who actually came and visited the Samaritans, really, and just watched their Passover sacrifice ceremony, saw their language and saw all those different cultures, and he was amazed, and he wanted to share it with the world. And of course, a lot of Samaritans, when they used to meet those scholars and explain to them about their religion, those scholars also offered sometimes to buy their scrolls. And some Samaritans they didn't have their economic situation was really bad, so they had to sell those scrolls to those scholars, and really not that much of an amount, really. And sadly, today we lost most of what we had as physical items. So they're all over the world, especially in Paris, and some in Russia, in the library known as Leningrad, some in America. So there's one scroll I actually found, read about, which was in Egypt, a Samaritan who wrote it in Egypt, so like 700 years ago almost. One interesting thing is that the people around Israel, Jewish scholars, and also around like Torah scholars around the world, they didn't really regard the Samaritan Pentateuch, Jerry. I got you there.
Yeah.
So he thought I can't pronounce it or something.
Yeah. I didn't say I didn't think you could pronounce it.
No,
I was just trying to
treat him like he's an uneducated
I
fool.
know, I'm joking.
I mean, look, I didn't pronounce that word right for like what, 15 years of my life. So
yeah. There's many words you haven't pronounced right in my presence, Jared.
You know what?
Tour guide, I pronounce it a lot.
Embroidling, for example.
Embroidled.
So
I'm never gonna live that down.
I'm sure you guys heard about the Qumran scrolls.
Yeah.
Explain though.
The Dead Sea
the audience, I'm guessing, don't.
Yeah, there was a shepherd basically in the Qumran, which is kind of near the Dead Sea, a cave near the Dead Sea. That's where they found a lot of ancient scrolls dating back to, there was like 2,500 years ago even. So I heard up to 2,500 years, a little bit less than that maybe. But
pretty ancient, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
really ancient.
People guess they're like maybe from around the time of Jesus, where people think Jesus existed, if he did.
I heard about that.
Around that kind of time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there were just scrolls found as well. Oh, very.
Say again, Amir. Say again. We got.
You broke up. We got nothing of that.
There was
Amir.
Qumran cave discovery. They found little tiny parchments with ancient Hebrew on them this week. Somewhere out, really outskirts of the Judean desert.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In those scrolls, they were most of them were in Assyrian Hebrew, like the Hebrew the Jewish people use today. Some of them were also, some of them had ancient Hebrew whenever the word Yud Hey Vav Hey, the word Yahweh, comes in. So whenever.
Wait, hold real quick.
Yes.
Small tangent. So you'll just say that.
Sorry.
You'll just say that the Tetragrammaton. You'll just say that.
Oh,
is it a big claim? You mean?
No, it's okay for you to say that name.
Yeah, like it's okay for you to say that, because like even me as a second,
we don't say that.
To say it.
It feels dirty to even hear it.
I know, you're right.
Yeah.
I might have, it's just that it's not a prayer or anything like that. We're not as sensitive, I believe, as a Jewish people. It's not like strictly forbidden. We say Shema, actually, instead of the word. So we're also not allowed to say Yud Hey Vav Hey, the pronunciation. So we say Shema, which means Hashem, really, in ancient Hebrew.
Shema. That sounds a lot like the Judeo-Aramaic kind of pronunciation.
Yeah, that's fair to say. It's like Shema, but like Hashem, but pronounced.
Yeah.
So
an accent.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever the word Yud Hey Vav Hey, YHWH appeared in that text, it's ancient Hebrew, and some people explain that is that why they explain it is because when the Jewish people moved from using ancient Hebrew to Assyrian Hebrew, it was kind of a big thing to also change YHWH because it's a really holy name, so they stick to the old writing of it, and you can find those
that we
probably like 2,000 years ago, around 2,000 years ago. The person who started to present the Assyrian Hebrew to the Jewish people, I believe, was Ezra Sofer. Ezra Sofer, if you heard about him. Mm-hmm. So that's where it all started.
But maybe explain for the audience.
Ezra Sofer, I don't know a lot about him. He was just a Jewish rabbi, I believe, and he presented, I think he helped the Jewish people remember the Torah after I believe it was after the Babylonian siege. I'm not 100% correct, but after the Babylonian siege, he helped the Jewish people learn the Torah again, because after the siege, there was some, I think, was hardship of learning the Torah, or it has been many years.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was like a crisis of culture, because you're after the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem, they tore down the first temple, and the entirety of the religion and the culture was centered around the temple. So with the temple gone, what do? There was cultural chaos. People, how do you keep the culture order going when the spine of the culture order was just ripped out, essentially?
Yeah, they reintroduced the Torah, and that's, I guess, he brought it back.
In one of the forms that we, in one of the forms that we see it today as Jews, as ways to keep the culture going and the faith going, without the temple itself. Yeah,
100%, 100%.
That's absolutely right.
So today we are 830. Actually, last week we had a baby. Might as well be 831.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so today we're actually having some challenges as a community living in 2020. We have some challenges repopulating. What's the word for it? Not repopulating.
Repopulating.
Reproducing.
Reproducing, repopulating.
Exactly.
In the same
It's because, first of all, 100 years ago we were 140, which means that genetically we were pretty close to each other, obviously. So
I haven't seen one Save the Samaritan concert in my life. It's weird.
You never been to a Samaritan concert?
No, I said I've never seen UNICEF or never seen Bono. Not one Save the Samaritan community concert.
I mean, of course. You know why, Kane? I mean, look at them. They're not sufficiently brown enough to get a Bono concert. Look at them. Everyone knows that's how Bono works.
It is weird. I've got to say, it's very strange how you guys are sort of the best kept secret of the Middle East. Nobody really talks about the Samaritan community, and it's a hell of a fall from grace to go from, how many did you say there was? 1 million, roughly?
There was 1,200,000 at some point.
Yeah. That's really crazy.
The population was living all over. They were even up to Greece. Some Samaritans lived even in Greece. So.
But that's kind of the same thing you get with all sorts of minorities in the Middle East. When people think of the Middle East, they think Arab, all Arab. It's all Arab. Everybody there is Arab, and that's. And I mean, I don't want to sound offensive, but the Arab politicians and the Arab nationalist ideology really tries to keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
like they try to make you think like, no, it's all just homogeneously Arabs, even though like you got Syriacs, Assyrians, Kurds. Like the only time you hear about minorities in the Middle East is if like they're being actively genocided against, and then you learn that they exist for the first time in the international media.
Or something.
Yeah, or if they're like they have their own militia, like the Kurds.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Like
Vice turns up.
we do. Like there has been a good amount of research been done like lately in the last 100 years, especially in the last 100 years. A lot of scholars all over the world started to get interested in the Samaritan traditions and religion and Torah also. The reason why they are interested in the Torah also is because there are about 5,000 small differences between the Masoretic text, the Jewish text, and the Samaritan text. Although those differences can be pretty small, like for example, a word missing a letter here and there, but the meaning itself does not really change. And there's also like about 10 important differences. I'm sure you might be interested to hear one important difference.
Yeah.
One important difference is when the 10 commandments are mentioned. The first 2 commandments in Judaism is, I am the Lord your God, and you shall have no other God before. Like that's 2. But in the Samaritan perspective, the Samaritan belief, it's considered, I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other God before me. That's 1 commandment. It has the same meaning. So that leaves us with 9. So actually we have number 10, which is to build or to kind of like the centralizing of the religion on Mount Gerizim, like the holiness of Mount Gerizim, basically. It commands us to build an altar on Mount Gerizim. So after that commandment, in about a few sentences or a few paragraphs, if you go to the Jewish, the Masoretic text, you will see, and you shall come to the place which I will choose. Will choose being in future tense. In the Samaritan scroll, is the Samaritan tradition, Pentateuch, it will be in the place which I chose, past tense, meaning that it was chosen in the 10 commandments. So that's the difference. Samaritan one has chosen as past for Mount Gerizim, and the Jewish one has as will choose. But that does not really change all the other commandments. So the mitzvot are almost all 100%. Kind of not 100%, but they're really the same. We don't have Torah Be'al Peh, which means our oral Torah is a little bit different. I mean, we have an oral Torah, but it's almost like what our scholars or our ancestors told us. Today, the high priest, by the way, a side note, today the high priest, he's my grandfather, but that doesn't mean I'm going to follow him. It's going to depend totally on my age, because we choose the oldest of the Cohen family. That lives on Mount Gerizim. That's basically it. So if I'm the oldest of the Cohen family, which is about 300 of the Samaritans are Cohens, 350, something like that, then you guys might come and see me wearing the high priest robe in like 40 years or 50 years or something.
That would be weird. Would I have to call you Your Holiness?
No, it's okay.
Yeah. I think the worst thing that would happen as a result of that would be I would have to really tone down the gay jokes, and I don't want to do that.
Sure, I'll follow you up on that. So, like,
do that anyway, considering his religious beliefs, but you know.
Oh, he loves it. Look at him smile.
By the way, I will be possibly, if I do get to be a high priest, I will be number 139. Based on the Samaritan traditions, today's generation is 137. Who knows? Maybe I'll be number 140.
139.
That doesn't feel like enough, does it?
137
really
high priests lived, right? But you should know that that's since 3,600 years. But you should know that the high priest hood, you want to call it high priesthood, it was basically from son to son. So a high priest would stay a high priest for about 40 to 50 years until his son. But then it stopped being from son to son. It stopped being the oldest of the Cohen family for some different reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So before we move on, I think I missed one important point I wanted to mention about the religion. So we use ancient Hebrew. We have the Torah. Oh yeah. So we only have the Chumash, the first 5 books. So the books of Joshua, for example, first of all, we have our own version of Joshua. So that's a different version of Joshua, almost a completely different version of Joshua, the Joshua story. But Nevi'im and Ketuvim, the prophets and the writings, the books of the prophets and the writings are also different. Not also different, but we consider them as history. That's what I meant to say. Kind of like
okay.
less divine of our history. It's almost like looked upon like we missed the part. We missed a good amount of our history because we're only 100 years ago. We couldn't keep a lot of it, so we rely on this Jewish perspective, Jewish stories to some extent of what happened in the books of the prophets. Although the main prophet for the Samaritans is considered Moses. So Moses is like Jesus for Christians or Muhammad for Muslims. Moses is the most central prophet in the Samaritan traditions. And also, I also wanted to point out, how do we pronounce ancient Hebrew? If I wanted to say in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, the modern or Jewish Hebrew, I would say Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, right?
Yeah.
In ancient Hebrew, it would sound Barash et bara Elohim it hashamim with aris. Okay, sounds really similar. I'm sure you can rely on that.
Yeah.
How would you pronounce? How would you pronounce Moses' name in
Moshe? Is
Moshe?
Yeah, or more like Mushi. Sounds
Mushi,
like
okay.
Chinese.
Like
yeah.
Mushu, yeah. Mushu,
Yeah, it's Mushi, and he has hundreds. We have hundreds of songs for Moses. Really, really loved prophet, the most loved prophet for the Samaritans.
Okay. Yeah, I think would we say that he's probably the most important for us as well?
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I'd
I'd
say he is. I mean, like, there's definitely a discussion to be had, but like the majority opinion I always hear is like, yeah, Moses is probably it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you, Abood, is the book of Joshua. How exactly does it differ? So you're talking about Joshua coming into the land of Israel. How does the story differ from the Jewish perspective?
It's so I haven't read all of it because it's not easily accessible. Because first of all, it's more like a historical book for us than a divine book. And we tend to read it less. I started to read it not long ago. I ordered a book on eBay that has it translated, because even the texts that we have are so ancient. We don't have them in a new text, so it's hard to read from them. Actually, we're working on. I think there's somewhere in Hebrew, but I don't think we have a clear Arabic version of it to read also. But it's pretty different. So far, it's at least the first part is the same until they came to Shechem and did the 6 tribes on Mount Gerizim, 6 tribes on Mount Ebal to do the blessing and the cursings. Up to that point, it's almost 100% the same, I believe. But I'm still gonna read it. It's really exciting. I have this book called Kept Traditions. For those of you who want to really read it, it's a really interesting book. It's called Kept Traditions by someone called Robert. And he's just, explaining what's in those scrolls that were found.
Someone called what? Sorry, Robert? Is that?
Robert. His name is Robert. Kept Traditions is the name of the book. Samaritans, Kept Traditions. I found really
just Robert. That's how the man goes. His name's Robert. Okay, he does
like Cher or Madonna. Yeah.
And I was about to say, like, look, when you that awesome, you don't need a last name. All right, you respect that man.
Robert.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really recommended book. So, yes, before we continue, I'm going to share some interesting photos of how we make the Sukkot.
Yeah,
so the Sukkot festival, they're pretty different. I'm going to share my screen here, but I think I do have Sukkot Samaritans.
It's like, how are they different? Y'all don't make them as big squares?
It's a lot of fruits, Jared. A lot of fruits.
A lot of fruits. Well, now you've piqued my interest.
Okay.
So, Abood, that's another one of the differences, right? That you wouldn't celebrate things like Chanukah or Purim or Du B'Shvat, things like that, right?
We don't have Chanukah and Purim. Yeah. We sometimes celebrate them a little bit, like as a symbolic thing with the Israelis in Israel. Like we sometimes might
dress up like a solidarity thing.
Right?
You got me
Yeah.
thinking, Abood. Maybe that's the way forward for everyone to celebrate each other's holidays, and that way we get more time off work.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I don't know. Twitter will get mad at you if you celebrate the holidays of another people and you're not a part of them.
Yeah, cultural
Why?
appropriation
For real?
and all that.
Why?
Yeah, they'll,
Yeah.
they'll accuse you of cultural appropriation for sure.
Abood, so I can't
it's
ever
so
come to
easy to
you
get
or
accused
text
of
up
that.
Abood, man. That's
Oh, that's my grandfather.
Yeah.
With the
Granddaddy
it's so
Abood.
close. Every year we make
Sure.
different versions of the you can make literally any shape. It can be a trippy shape sometimes.
Could you make an octagonal polyhedron?
I'm
Octagonal.
pretty sure you can if you work it out. I'm pretty sure you can. No reason
All
not
right.
to. Yeah, whatever
Sounds
that is
pretty
though. Is
good.
that an octagon?
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, we meant octagonal, 8 sides.
Oh,
yeah, octagonal means 8 sides, and a polyhedron is a.
We have
Well, I
enough
mean,
for this.
it's kind of a nonsense shape because octagonal means it has 8 sides, but the poly in polyhedron means 5 sides.
Okay, yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
doable,
so-
man. But you need a really good guy. We have a competition of who builds the most beautiful all the time.
so
So
cool.
my uncle will always argue he has the most beautiful. Okay, so
He said that with so much like bitterness and like past pain.
no,
He
it's
always
okay. He
has
just
to have
always
the
says
most
that.
beautiful son.
He's just so angry. I mean, you see, Amir's the oldest out of all of us. He's the one who's in the most competition with his neighbors to make sure his house looks the most impressive.
He's the only one with a fucking house.
That's true. The rest of us are just slumming it.
Yeah.
Abood, one thing I wanted to ask you, it fascinates me. It's a story I've heard about the rivaling Mishkanim. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about that and what happened?
Of the Mishkanim. Okay. So first of all, the Samaritans, we believe that the Mishkan was built since the first year the Israelites entered the Holy Land by Joshua, right? Joshua came here and he had the instructions to build the temple, and he built it on Mount Gerizim. There is still a place where we believe the temple existed on. So that's still a holy place. So the temple got. Here's the thing. So there's 2 sides to this story. One story, like the Samaritan side, is that the temple was not really destroyed, but it was just simply hidden. It was just hidden. The tools were hidden somewhere in this mountain. Okay. Some cave in this mountain here that no one really knows even until today. In another story, I don't think it's only the Jewish story that like it might as well be the Jewish stories that it got destroyed. Some people do say it's the Maccabees. I'm not aware if I'm correct on that. Destroyed by the Maccabees because they are on a different year than when we believe the Mishkan was built.
It's like the Samaritan temple destroyed by the Maccabees.
No,
Yes.
I think it was it the Maccabees or the Chashmonaim?
It might as well be the Chashmonaim. I'm really not sure why I forgot who destroyed it.
Yeah, I think it might have been the Chashmonaim and Jonathan.
The Maccabees just hid in the mountains and then came down, right?
Yeah. As I was about to say, I mean, like the Maccabees' main thing was just throwing rocks at Greeks. That's pretty much all they did.
Yeah,
that's-
I don't know why did I get the word Maccabees.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Maccabees are also the ones that founded the Hashmonean dynasty.
Okay.
Aren't they the descendants of Judah Maccabee?
Maybe, yeah.
I think they are. I'm gonna Google it.
I don't know. I think we're getting the things a little bit mixed up here in our history, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I mean, look,
Alright.
there's
Part of the
so
learning
much
experience.
in
I had
there.
to
We're
sort
gonna
of-
get stuff mixed up.
It's all part of the learning experience.
Well, it's
Definitely.
Middle East, you know. That's the way it is here. Like, a lot
So,
of
yeah,
our history
Abood.
lost.
For sure. Abood, back to the Mishkan. So
Mhm.
what happened to the original one then in terms of what you guys believe?
Oh, well, it is believed that the Mashiach, the Messiah, will reveal it again when he comes back, like in Samaritan traditions and
No way.
Wow.
in
All right.
stories.
Wow. That's incredible, man. That's incredible. So it's believed. So is there a third temple thing with you guys as well, that you believe a third temple
Well,
will be built?
technically it's second for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is believed that like the Israelites will be united, like from around the world.
Wow.
And all the
And
Jews are going to become
naturally,
Samaritans.
well, that's Samaritan, just back to be Israelites, I guess. We're going to be back to being Israelites. Technically, I mean, we're all Israelites, like the Jewish people, the Samaritans, they're from different tribes, right? But the only difference is that it's going to be on Mount Gerizim, unless the Mashiach says otherwise, I guess. So, you know what I mean?
Whatever the Mashiach says goes. You can't really question him. It's the Mashiach.
That'll be embarrassing. Comes over.
Like the Mashiach comes back, all the Samaritans and the Jews agree. We're all like, yeah, B'nai Israel, and we're all doing that again. And he's just like, you know what? I'm going to put the temples in Haifa. Temples in Haifa. It's on Mount Carmel now. You get that nice seaside breeze coming in. Really makes God feel welcome.
Yeah, Mount Gerizim was really like always a central place for the Israelites. Nonetheless, it's a very, very green area. There's believed to have been 12 water springs. There's 4 that are still active until today. Delicious water. You should really come and try it. Another advertisement.
Yeah, another advertisement. Are you gonna plug the tahini factory again?
We will.
Of course.
That is a good question, though. Aboud, do you know what happened to the other springs that are that are defunct now? Do you know what they are?
Yeah, that's a question I was actually also wanting to know about. It might as well have just been, just blocked or something. I don't know if it was intentional or not, or just
maybe they dried up.
Aboud, I think I can help you out with that one as well. Sometimes springs, they move. So you can have like earthquakes that shake the earth.
They'll like shift the aquifers.
It will shift the water to another place and it will pop up at a different place.
That's completely plausible, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if you guys want to find it, I got enough time. Just give me a bucket and a shovel. I'll find it.
Sure, come over. We'll pay you.
Dude, I'm still young enough that I love to just dig holes in the front yard.
So, by the way, we do also believe that the altar of Abraham and Isaac, where Abraham almost sacrificed that story, we believe it happened on the mountain here. So we do still have a physical altar that we believe this is the actual place where it happened. It's just been from generation to generation has been passed on that this is the place. So the actual altar.
It was amazing seeing that, Aboud. You haven't seen it yet, Jared, but you need to when we go up there next time.
I know. I gotta go check it out. I mean, like I looked at it from down below. I just never went into it.
Yeah. One important also piece of history for us that we've kept is called the Abisha scroll. Let me see if I can. Definitely. I could.
You're pulling up with the computer. I thought you were just about to just pull up a box full of historical artifacts.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's at my uncle's library. So I never saw this painting. Pretty cool. This is a painting of the Abisha scroll, and this is the real one on the left side. This is a really, really ancient scroll, possibly the oldest ancient scroll in the world. Like even including the Jewish scrolls. I'm not talking about a book. We don't have the old book, but as a scroll, this might as well be the oldest Torah scroll in the world. Now, Samaritans believe in the Samaritan traditions. We believe it is over 3,000 years old. It was written by the third high priest in the Holy Land, Abisha, who was the son of the other high priest before him, Abisha, the son of Pinchas, who was the son of Eleazar, who was the first high priest. So we're talking about 3,500 years ago or 3,400 years ago. And it has been kept throughout the generations. That's what we believe. Of course, some people might be wondering, well, you can easily know that with carbon dating, right? Or some kind of methodological, dating back. So there has been some carbon dating, and it's been proven that different papers date back to different eras, but like from 700, 800, 900. Now that's still staggeringly old because remember the papers it can't survive, and
like they'll disintegrate eventually. It's the question of like the ship of Theseus kind of deal, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, like you have to keep replacing parts, but like
And that's
Yeah.
what we believe, we did really. When a part was missing or when a part was just like got disintegrated, we would have just change it with the same text, with everything, would change it. Almost like this, I don't know what's the name of this theory that's called, I think Josephus theory or something like that, where if you change the whole ship, Josephus theory maybe, where if you change the whole part of the ship across the years, every single part, is it the same ship?
No.
I mean, that's the ship of Theseus. Like,
okay,
yeah,
really?
that's
how
what
it's called?
that's what the ship of Theseus is. It sounds like the ship of Theseus was the ship that brought the original colonists to the city of Athens. And so, like, they kept the ship in the port as a reminder, like, this is the ship that brought us to our place. But, the wood would rot, and you would need to put new planks in. So, it's just stayed there sitting in the harbor for, 300 or so years, and they kept it replacing the planks. And so people will be like, this is the same exact ship that brought our ancestors here 300 years ago, even though all the wood is different.
Different, yeah.
Is it still
so
the same ship?
That's pretty similar to what I'm telling you, right?
Yeah.
And we keep this scroll in a pretty big safe, we only bring it out like 3 times in a year on our holy days. And now, because Samaritans have really old scrolls that are around the world, valued a lot also, some people had the idea of, hey, like, they saw it as a quick money opportunity. They went and they stole 2 Torah scrolls from the Samaritan synagogue. That was about 45 years or something like that. And they asked for a lot of money from us to get it back. And
they ransomed us.
Across many years. Some of them were like 500. Some of them were like 500 years old. I think one of them was 500. One of them was 700. We couldn't get them back even until today. But about 5 years ago, there was a museum, an American museum, who proposed to buy it for us under one condition, that they keep it in the museum, but only bring it to us 3 times a year. But we didn't like that offer for some reasons. It's just that we kind of lose our
obvious
ownership.
reasons, I would say.
I was about to say that's a very
that deal either.
right. Like that's a very British museum like deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, like, can we like just take a quick tangent to talk about how shitty Western museums can be sometimes? Not even sometimes, just how shitty they are. Like, you got the British Museum, who is just like, oh yeah, what's that, African people? You want your ancestors' artwork and cultural historiography? Oh well, I mean, buy a plane ticket and come see it in London. And American museums are no better either. I just like shitting on the UK.
Yeah, Jared with his rants. I like it.
I mean, that annoys me though. It's just like, we'll buy them back for you, but like, it's yours. We'll buy them for you, but you only get to see them 3 times a year. Fuck that. No.
It's a bit of a stingy
it's
offer,
like,
to be fair.
it started to be a more attractive offer when we heard that, unfortunately, some of the papers were
deteriorated,
split, not deteriorated, but they split them so they can sell them separately, because they make more money like that. And we noticed when there were there's this guy who was trying to smuggle some scrolls across the Jordanian border, and he was found with them. Not sure who was he trying to sell them to, but that's one case. I think we're on a good point. You wanted to ask something?
No, I was going to say, what do you think they would have had to offer you in order for you guys to have accepted?
I think they what would they offer us? What do you mean exactly?
What would they need to offer you in order for you guys to accept?
Like a museum?
Like, what deal would you have accepted?
Good question, honestly. I think it's just, keeping it more here, at least having the ownership of it, because our ancestors, this just got stolen from us. Let's put it there. The day that this was stolen, it was a horrible day for the Samaritans.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, Abood. I'd say, we should definitely try and do something about that and get this museum to return your scrolls. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's your ancestors that have written them.
The museum doesn't have it right now. Like, do they, or do the thieves still have it?
The museum doesn't have it. The mafia people, that's how they're called, still have them. So
yeah.
Yep. I mean, here's an interesting thing to see, like really fast here, of the Samaritan scroll in Paris. Let me go see this here. Am I sharing my screen yet? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, not this one. Wait 1 second. I think it's here. Okay, so there it is. So this one right here, like you see, this is in Paris. If I go to this website, Samaritan Update is a pretty interesting website also. It says here, previously unknown, mislabeled, and in library storage since at least 1927, recently rediscovered by Dr. David, almost complete 1145 CE Samaritan Scroll of Deuteronomy. One of the oldest manuscripts of its kind in the world. So I don't know if it says here exactly. Oh, this one actually we still have. This one is not. This is a 450-year-old Torah scroll we have in the Cohen family, and we give it to different Cohen families each year to keep it there. So it's a really interesting website. Check it out, Samaritan Update. If you want to learn more about the Samaritans here. But yeah, it's definitely a sad thing that we've lost those scrolls, especially because, we don't have a lot of physical items from our ancestors anymore, since we were 150 at some point. We sold a lot of them. We also we did successfully keep more than 1,000 melodies and tens of thousands of poems from really old scrollers. So yes, I think it's a good point now in the episode to talk about our stand in the Holy Land here in the modern world today. Now, as a Samaritan, let's start by a Samaritan who lives in Nablus here in Shechem, near Shechem on Mount Gerizim. For those who don't know, Mount Gerizim is considered politically as Area A and C, meaning that it's A for Palestinians, C for Israelis. That's why if you come here, you will see both Israeli and Palestinian cars with different license. And you will also see like different shops, Israeli and Palestinian shops, like with different. You will see the two fonts normally, like in many areas around Israel and Palestine here. Now, one important point also to know is that the Samaritans who live here on Mount Gerizim, we have Israeli and Palestinian, and also some of us Jordanian passports. So we have 3: Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian. And I'm sure some of the viewers, if they followed me, they know my name. You can see my name, Abud Cohen, but actually in the passport, it's Abdallah Cohen. And Abdallah is obviously an Arabic name, and Cohen is obviously a Jewish family name. And that's happens because we speak Arabic. And Abdallah is really in the same meaning as Ovadia. It happens also doesn't happen a lot in Cholon because they speak Hebrew. Yeah. It means Ovadia. It means the God's servant. Abdallah.
Okay.
Sorry? Abdallah, that's the meaning.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure what you said.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, this puts us in a kind of a special kind of a position here, that because I studied in Shechem for like 13 years, 14 years in Shechem, in Nablus with the Palestinians. Had a great time, actually. Learned a lot. Didn't have any kind of, racial discrimination or anything like that, honestly. There was like maybe 1 or 2 small incidences where, maybe I was called a Jew or something like that, but that's just a once or twice. Didn't really care about it. And we also have the, unique position to have high salaries from Israel if you compare them to the West Bank, and we have low prices in the West Bank if you compare them to Israel. The land here costs much less, so especially if you bring a Palestinian worker, the land costs less, the materials cost less. So that's definitely it. Some people, they ask us, so wait, like, what are you? Are you an Israeli?
Yeah.
Are you Palestinian?
Whose side are you on?
Which side are you on? Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of people, when they ask me this question, unfortunately, they really, I don't know, they want me, like, sometimes when Palestinians ask me this, some particular Palestinians or some particular Israelis, they want me to tell them, I'm a Palestinian, I'm with you. And the reality is that we really, we have kind of a touch between those two people. We've been living with the Palestinians, especially the ones who live here. We've been living with the Palestinians for hundreds of years. So we even though like ethnically we are not Palestinian, but we have learned so much from their culture. We have our food. A lot of our food is Palestinian. The language is Palestinian. So we definitely have some share of the Palestinian culture and some of the identity inside us. And if you look at the Israelis, the Israeli identity is also connected to us because of, Judaism and the Torah and like all the stories. And the people are very, like they're relatively like different tribes, but from the same father, let's say Jacob, right? For those who don't know, Israel is the name of Jacob, right? The prophet Jacob. So that's where the word "the sons of Israel" came from. The way that I like to put it is really we are trying to be a bridge of peace, really, between the two people. And the way that we do that is by showing them how we are getting along extremely well with both people, and we get invited to both elections ceremonies. Like we get invited to both festivals also, and we invite both parties to our festivals. If you want to see the Passover sacrifice every year, you're welcome to see. You will see how Israelis and Palestinians hang.
Do y'all still do the sacrifices?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Passover sacrifice is probably one of the oldest rituals in the Holy Land today, still practiced. That's the only animal sacrifice that is done.
Really? Just that one?
Sorry?
Just that one?
That's the only one, yeah. Because it is believed that it doesn't need a mishkan. You don't need a temple for you to do the Passover sacrifice. But in Judaism, it is. It's like that's why in Judaism it's not done, because there's no temple.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Hundreds of people around the world come to watch it every year, and last year it was empty because of the pandemic.
Of course.
For me, it was a kind of a weird Passover ceremony last year because we're not used to it being so empty and so quiet. Honestly,
it seemed serene when we were up there, and from what you explain, usually it's chock full of tourists. So I can't imagine it obviously full of people, but
it seemed like just such a quiet, quaint little village.
It is definitely quiet.
I was looking at that place and I was just like, I'd like to buy a house here one day. It's like so quiet. The only issue is
how many people ask me about that.
Yeah.
How easy is it to get a house here? I always get asked.
Yeah.
I said it as well, I think, no?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you guys have access to the subsidies that settlements get? Places like
what are the subsidies exactly?
Like housing assistance. If you're gonna build something on land, like it's a lot cheaper for you to get the permit, and the government help pays for materials, as well as you just generally subsidize the whole process. Like, you guys get any money?
No, I don't think we have that.
No,
I don't think we have that, and perhaps it's maybe because we like some of the municipality, you can say, is Palestinian. Perhaps that's why.
Yeah.
So
that's my second question. Are you guys your own municipality, or are you technically a part of Nablus?
We're technically. Good question. I mean, we are in many ways we are part of Nablus, and like, for example, if a police comes here, obviously he's also kind of considered as an Israeli area. So it depends on what. So some, for example, some services we have to pay taxes to the Palestinian Authority, right? And some others for the Israeli. So it's a kind of a mix of both, really.
It's a mishmash of both. Yeah. You take what you can from here and what you get from there, and you kind of make it work. But what I do think is amazing, Abood, is that you guys, you're
guys, do you know what?
What's that, Kane? Your face got frozen while you were doing a kissy face. And
I was just gonna say, I understand, Jared. Yeah. I was gonna say, I just realized I don't think we actually explained what was going on with the title and everything. but we were going to be
Oh
joined
yeah,
by
that's
Aboud's uncle today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but we will do that episode as well in the future.
Definitely. I was supposed to be with my
And
uncle.
maybe more.
He's a priest,
Yeah.
definitely. He was just couldn't be with us today. He agreed to be with us on another suitable day for him. So, definitely. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, but we promised to stream, so we had to do something. So there's an hour of Aboud talking about his people.
Yeah,
and one thing that I wanted to really reflect on is the fact that you guys are a real bridge for peace over there in the West Bank. You know, you hold both citizenships plus a Jordanian one on top of that. And maybe this can be factored into some kind of solution in the future with the Palestinians, because I think if they had some kind of option to dip in and out of both economies as well, which many do at this stage, right, already, maybe that can be something to look at and a way forward. And with your guys maybe mediation along the side, you know, and getting involved in kind of you know, what a long-term solution would look like. I think it could really work. And I wanted to ask, has anyone from your community ever run for parliament in Israel or anything like that?
Good question. I believe we have a seat in the parliament in the Israeli side. Yeah, we do have one.
Yeah.
I think it's even until today. And also on the Palestinian side.
I'm a Google.
A what?
Oh, yeah. God, I have like 3 times.
Sorry, what, Kane?
No, Jared can Google it, he said. Well, I also I agree. I think that you have a major part to play, a huge hand in potentially ending this stuff once and for all. By the way, I just see like slightly over an hour. So how much more would you say there is to get into, Aboud? Because if there's a lot more we can talk about, then I propose that maybe this be like something we do a few parts to, maybe.
Definitely, definitely. There are some things that we haven't dug deep in for sure. You know, we've been just picking some headlines from here and there, and we're building like ground. So
maybe this will be the first part of many on the Samaritans.
100%.
We could do that, like a series.
Yes, we can. We're over an hour. The episode is about to be over. So
I can't find any specific names, but I keep getting bills from the Knesset plenum that are about the Samaritan community and like the protections for their status and stuff like that. I can't find any names.
Right. I think a good idea also, Kane, would be like, you know, if any of the viewers want to ask any questions, and we can like save it for the next episode. Sure.
Yeah.
That's also something.
Yeah. I'm gonna check. Yeah, nobody wrote anything. Oh, but I also wanted to bring up. You remember that that other guy, that other channel where a dude was claiming to be a Samaritan? He spoke with an American accent. Said he was just like, "I'm a Samaritan from Croatia," in an American accent, and I believe in Jesus.
Yeah, I do. But like, you think he meant he's like a Samaritan, like from here, not a Samaritan who helps, like a good Samaritan, you know?
I mean, from what he said in his little videos is that like he's a descendant of Samaritans who left the land to like the area of Croatia and then moved to America. Like that.
I mean, who knows? You know, I had many. It is definitely possible. I had so many people who came like to me on like send me some messages on social media telling me, "Hey, I saw you're a Samaritan. Do you know I am also one?" It was like, "Wow, cool. How come? You know, show me. What do you mean?" So some of them sent me their DNA analysis saying that they are Samaritan.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how DNA works. I mean, hell, like there's not a single European alive who's not a descendant of God, what's the name? What's the guy who conquered England?
William
the dude from Normandy. Yeah, William the Conqueror. Like every European alive today is a descendant of him one way or another. Like, so it's not surprising that like people all over the world who have Samaritan blood in them. I just thought it was weird. You guys have your own version of messianic like Jews, like how we have Messianic Jews, there's Messianic Samaritans. A dude with an American accent claiming to be of a specific sect of Samaritans that believe in Jesus.
Yeah, you know, you remind me that like the DNA research did come up with the result that the Kohens of the Samaritans are connected to the Jewish Kohens. We have the gene called something like E1B1, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they came from the same ruling class.
Yeah. I guess we can keep that for like future episodes. I mean, I'll need to study more on it in the future.
Oh, we could have so many episodes just talking about like how like the Israelites like grew out of the Semitic Canaanite paganism of the era and then slowly evolved into like the Hebrews and Samaritans.
Yeah.
And then where they converged. We could have so much discussion on that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And we can go into Sefer Yoshua as well, because I think that specific bit as well, Abu, it's so fascinating because
100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna learn more about it.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know, right? There's rumors that the Qumran cave discoveries, way back when, that there was bits that weren't publicized, and maybe certain of those bits collaborate with your guys' story of Sefer Yoshua. And there's probably other stuff hidden in caves in the Judean desert that they're yet to find. They're still putting up things by the day. So,
100%. You know, even though the scrolls that were found, I think one or 2 weeks ago, we also don't know what's been found. The scrolls. So, super interested about that. Yeah, I'm down for doing a part 2, something like that in the near future. Yeah, Jared. I'm gonna leave you to end the episode like always with your magic clap.
Yeah, my magic clap.
Before that,
it's called the Thunder Strike of Righteousness. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did it become magic?
Yeah, yeah. It's magic now. It's magic now. The Thunder Strike of Righteousness. Write it down in the annals of history.
All right, the Thunder Strike of Righteousness.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure, really. We've been looking forward for this episode for a long time. Thanks for everyone who stayed with us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's definitely the start of the journey, and we're looking forward for the future episodes. So yeah, this has been the Open Peace Podcast, and Jared, go ahead.
Yeah. I would say the episode's over, but I also want to point out Maor Farnese, who's always there. It's not a party till Maor's here, but sorry, Maor, party's over.